Here's a question you're probably wondering about. How many schools should you apply to? The U.S. Department of Education says there are more than 4,000 colleges and universities in the United States. But that's probably too many essays to have to write. So what's a more reasonable number? Well, as with anything else that feels overwhelming at first, the best way to tackle this issue is by breaking it down. So first, you can divide it in two, by knowing that there are two main kinds of colleges, public and private. A public college or university, often called a state college, is funded in good part by the taxes paid by the residents of its home state. They use these taxes to try to keep costs down for in-state students. A private school, however, is supported mainly by the tuition paid by its students, and donations made by its alumni. This is why private schools tend to be more expensive. But just how expensive? To start to answer that, we'll break things down again. In the public category, there are two main options. In-state schools, where you'd go to a state college or university that's in the state where you're a resident, and out-of-state schools, where the state college is in a different state from where you live. There's also a fourth type of school to consider, community college. These two-year schools could give you an easier-to-afford launchpad for your four-year degree. Oh, there's also something called a for-profit college, but as you'll see elsewhere on this website, we really recommend that you avoid them. And if you read up on them, you'll see why. Now, one reason it's good to know about the different types of colleges is so that you can better understand the size of the price differences between them. That dollar amount can have a big impact on where you choose to go. So, let's look at what you can expect to pay at each type of school. Of course, tuition and room and meal plan prices vary from one college to the next, but here are some typical ranges. Currently, private colleges usually run between $35,000 and $75,000 per year, with the average being around $43,000. Go to a state college that's not in your state, and you can expect the cost per year to come down to this range. But if you choose a state college in your state, the price drops down to here. And if you go to a community college for your first 2 years, where there's no room or meal plan, you can expect it to cost about $3,200 per year. So there you have your price comparison. But there's something else you need to remember, and that is, these are just the prices for 1 year of school. In order to graduate with a full degree, you're going to need to cover these costs for 4 years in a row. Or even more if it takes you longer than 4 years. So what do? The most important thing, don't put all your dreams into one college, or eggs into one basket, or whatever phrase you want to use. Instead, develop and follow an application strategy, one that involves applying to different types of schools. That way, even if some of your choices don't work out, you'll still have other good options available that could. After all, by the time you learn which colleges accepted you and which didn't, it'll be past the deadline for applying to most other schools. Now don't worry, you can always apply to your dream school, but definitely make sure you apply to some more affordable schools as well. Why? Because just like you need an academic safety school in case you don't get accepted to your first choice, you should also have at least one financial safety school, in case the costs of the other schools that accept you wind up being more than you can really afford. Plus, it's better to build up your opportunities when applying than finding you don't have enough options at acceptance time. So, how many schools should you apply to? Our suggestion is to make sure you apply to the following. Your dream school, because you might get scholarships or grants to help pay for your education there. Several colleges that you feel fit you well, both academically and financially. At least one school you're pretty sure you can get into, that's your academic safety school. And at least one financial safety school, one that you know you can afford. Now, there are some things that you can do to potentially make the whole process easier, like applying to schools that accept the Common App. They're often easier to apply to than schools that don't use them. And, just as importantly, there are also things you can do to help make your college education more affordable. And you can find out more about them right now by visiting some of the other pages on collegemoneymatters.org. Thank you.